Hello class, welcome to Connected. Today we are going to read the story titled The Midnight Visitor, written by Robert Arthur. By the end of this chapter, you will have a better understanding of storytelling, reading and writing crime or thriller stories and the usage of a few new words. The story that we are about to read is about a secret agent named Osable, who is on the verge of acquiring a very important report, but is interrupted by another secret agent, Max. Let us see how Osable tricks Max to save the report from going into the wrong hands. I would like to request someone to volunteer and start reading the story till 20 years ago. Your teacher shall assist you if you get stuck somewhere. Very well. Now let us recap what was read. From the perspective of Fowler, a writer, Osable is described as an unusual secret agent because he does not look like any of the secret agents Fowler had read about in books. Fowler felt very disappointed as they were walking down a dim and smelly corridor of the French hotel in which Osable had a room. It was a tiny room and Fowler could not imagine a dramatic scene taking place in a room of that sort. Osable was a fat man who still spoke with an American accent even 20 years after leaving America. He could speak enough French and German but was not very fluent in them. Moving on, I would like to request someone to volunteer and continue reading till In the Wine. Very good. Now let us review what was read. Osable told Fowler that he was aware that Fowler was disappointed. Fowler had assumed that Osable was a secret agent who regularly did missions that involved danger and spying, and he wished to meet Osable because he expected thrilling action sequences like those in books and movies about secret agents. However, Fowler had to spend a boring evening in a music hall, and Osable had not received any secret messages from women but had only made a phone call to make an appointment for a meeting in his room. Osable laughed lightly at Fowler while opening his hotel room door and then stood aside to let Fowler enter the room first. Moving on, I would like to request someone to volunteer and continue reading till On the Light. Amazing! Now let us understand what was read. Osable then told Fowler that he was aware that Fowler had expected better, but he was soon about to get a look at a report that many people had risked their lives to preserve, and Osable was going to receive it. Osable believed that it was such an important report that it might affect everyone's future. He asked Fowler whether that was dramatic enough for him. He then closed the hotel door behind him and switched on the lights in the room. Moving on, I would like to request someone to volunteer and continue reading till Nothing Specially Menacing. Well done. Now let us recap what was read. After a boring evening, Fowler finally came across something exciting when Osable turned the lights on in the room. In the middle of the room, a man was standing with an automatic pistol in his hand. Osable blinked his eyes as he could not believe it for a minute, but then addressed the man as Max and asked him what he was doing in his room, as he thought that Max was in Berlin. Max was a thin man and was not very tall. His face resembled a fox and he did not look very dangerous other than the gun in his hand. Moving on, I would like to request someone to volunteer and continue reading till Had I Known. Very well. Now let us review what was read. Max quietly said that he was there to take the report about the missiles that Osable was going to receive tonight from him. He wanted to take it as he believed that it would be safer with him than with Osable. Osable sat down on the armchair and in a serious tone went on about how he was going to complain to the management because it was the second time someone had got into his room through the balcony without him knowing. Fowler looked at the only window in the room and saw that it looked very ordinary, and he could not see much from it as it was night outside. Max revealed that he had used a pass key and not the balcony. If he had known about the balcony, his job would have been much easier. Moving on, I would like to request someone to volunteer and continue reading till But They Haven't. Very good. Now let us understand what was read. Osable looked very frustrated and said that the balcony belongs to the next room. He then looked at Fowler as if to explain to him what he was talking about. He said that the room they were in used to be part of a larger apartment and the room next to them used to be the living room, which contained the balcony. Last month someone else had also used the balcony to sneak into Osable's room and he had complained to management about it. The management had promised to block the balcony, but they had not done it yet. Moving on, I would like to request someone to volunteer and continue reading till hesitate to shoot. Amazing! Now let us recap what was read. Max told Fowler to sit down as they had to wait half an hour for the report to arrive. Osable pointed out that they had to wait 31 minutes. He wondered how Max had come to know about the report and Max replied in return that he wondered where Osable and his people had come to possess the report. But Max was sure that he was going to take it tonight from him. Suddenly, someone knocked at the door and when Max asked who it was, Osable replied that it was the police. He had asked the police to make sure that everything was going according to plan because the report that important needed extra protection. Max became nervous and Osable asked what his plan was now. Because if Osable did not answer the door, the police would come inside and catch Max. Moving on, I would like to request someone to volunteer and continue reading till screamed once shrilly. Well done! Now let us review what was read. Max angrily moved towards the window. He put one leg out of the window and told Osable to send the police away while he waited on the balcony, otherwise he would start firing his gun. The knocking on the door became louder and a voice started calling Osable's name. Max put his other leg outside of the window as well while still pointing the gun at Osable. Just as the door started to open, Max let go of the window so he could drop down to the balcony, but as he fell, his voice was heard screaming very sharply. Moving on, I would like to request someone to volunteer and continue reading till the end of the story. Very well, now let us understand what was read. When the door opened, it revealed a waiter outside with a bottle and 2 glasses on a tray. He told Osable that it was the drink he had ordered for when he returned to the hotel. The waiter put the tray on the table and left the room after uncorking the bottle quickly. Fowler was extremely shocked as he tried to ask Osable where the police was but could not utter the words properly. Osable told him that there was no police. He was only expecting Henry the waiter. Fowler began to express his concern over Max, who might be on the balcony still, but Osable assured him that he would not come back into the room because there was no balcony outside and he had tricked Max into thinking that there was. Alright, now that we have finished reading the story, let us answer a few questions. You have 5 minutes to think of the answers. Very good. Now let us look at the answer sheet. that's it for today, students. I hope you enjoyed today's lesson.